All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Amy,
And I'm Paul.
and this is the Comics Haul for the week of Wednesday, September 16th. We've got a lot of really great comic books to talk to you guys about, plus some stuff to look forward to in the coming months. But before we get started, we do have our lovely moderator, Cassidy. Cassidy, say hello.
Hi, yeah. If you're watching live, as per usual, we are live on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. And I'm in all of those chats.
Excellent. And if you guys are watching live, you are joining us at 4 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday. If not, you are listening to our podcast feedback on your favorite podcasting platform, which is awesome. And you can catch that anytime after our show's broadcast. The podcast does go live beginning on Thursdays. So, Paul, let's get started with our headlines, shall we?
We shall. It's been I'd say, a really big week for DC. Doom Patrol has been renewed for a third season on HBO Max. Announced as a part of DC fandom, I call part 2. I think technically it was called DC fandom Discover the Multiverse, which is the part 2, which just happened this previous Saturday. It's been renewed for a third season exclusively on HBO Max. And all we know is that it's going to premiere sometime in 2021. And right now, currently, the Doom Patrol, the show, is being streamed, and you can find it on the DC Universe app as well as the HBO Max app. By the time season 3 comes out, I can assume, let's just safely assume it'll just be on HBO Max at that point. Me and Amy did do a Comics Haul episode on Doom Patrol. We looked at some Grant Morrison stuff versus some Gerard Way stuff. That is a fun. That was a fun episode to not only research but to talk about with all of you, because Doom Patrol is wacky. So you can expect some more of that wacky goodness sometime in 2021 when season 3 does come out.
I'm still catching up on the show, but it is deserving every bit of praise that it's getting. The audience only continues to grow as it has been accessible through HBO Max now. So look forward to more Doom Patrol coming soon. Mad Cave Studios is announcing their upcoming Showcase 2.0. So earlier this year, they did feature a showcase in which they kind of previewed what's coming up from their company and new initiatives. So they're doing this again on Saturday, October 3rd. Mad Cave Studios, you may recognize if you watched our show last week or listened in. We covered their Stargazer #1, and there are future releases that we are interested in covering from them as well. So you can look forward to that. And if you guys are interested in learning what's coming up from Mad Cave, then you are going to want to tune into their social media, go to their website on October 3rd from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And during this event, fans will get to listen to talks with a number of their creators and the administrative team of the company. Plus, you can get an overview of what new titles are coming up next. A lot of different segments with artists. There's going to be some live draws, some giveaways of exclusive variant covers that will only be available during the Mad Cave Showcase 2.0. And a Q&A segment and more. And I know I will be tuning in because I am very interested in what titles they have to announce coming up soon. So that'll be really fun. Again, that is Saturday, October 3rd, if you want to check that out. It reminds me of Image Expo, which hasn't happened for a little while. But those events where companies get you really excited, more so than just flipping through a previews magazine could do, letting you know what's coming soon from their company.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that Amy spoke very, very highly of Stargazer, and that actually went into second printing, as did their other #1 that came out the same week, which was Dryfoot. Also went into a second printing as well. So they're clearly doing something right. So I know Amy will be tuning in, and I'm going to do my best to tune in because I'm loving what Mad Cave is doing right now as well. But over to a more popular company, you may have heard of them once or twice, but Brian Michael Bendis is ending his run with Superman. I'd say that as a blanket statement because he was writing in tandem the Superman ongoing story as well as Action Comics as well, which two different sides of Clark. I usually say that one of them is always about Clark and one of them is always about Superman. That's how I always sort of switch those off in my brain. But his run with Superman is coming to an end. Bendis did originally join DC after almost a decade exclusively with Marvel in 2017, and then he made his debut in Action Comics #1000. It was like a huge oversized issue, and it was honestly, it was fantastic. And then he also relaunched Superman during the Rebirth era with #1, and that was in July of 2018. So, as soon as he joined DC, he really hit the ground running and was so busy because he's done so much. Wow. I mean, I know he brought his imprint over. He started like 2 DC imprints. He wrote
Jinx World and
and the young adult I think version of Titans.
Wonder Comics. Is
Wonder
that one?
Comics. Yeah,
Yes.
that's him. He started that as well. So his run is coming to an end. So Action Comics, Bendis is going to end with 1028. Superman ends with number 28, but he's not done with DC. I mean, over the weekend, he did mention that he is going to finish Legion of Superheroes with Ryan Sook right now. So, I mean, that's an ongoing. It was originally solicited as a 12 issue, but I'm pretty sure it's going to keep on going. And then we don't know what else he's got planned for DC, but I'm sure whatever it is, it's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. He has a habit of kind of really leaving a mark on these companies as he gets time to play with some of their most famous characters and then create some of his own, including like Naomi. So that's really cool to see what he's going to be doing next after his monumental turn on Superman.
Yep.
Final piece of DC Comics news, talking about the other caped crusader over at DC Comics. Just a reminder that this Saturday is Batman Day. So you guys can check out on DC Comics website, check with your local comic book store. There's different events going on virtually, free comics that you can read. So check that out. I'm still looking forward to those Spotify playlists that they said are going to be in rotation. And there are going to be children's events and activities geared towards children as well. So everybody can get in on Batman
there's a
Day.
5K. I'm going to be doing the 5K. I'm excited for that. I like to run in general. Might as well do it with like a full, in full Batman, regalia. So.
I was going to ask you doing the cape and the cowl as you
everything. Yeah. But I'm just going to run real low, because the years allowed me to be aerodynamic. So that's gonna be fun. I can't wait for Batman Day. It's always a blast, and I think even now I love that DC is still providing that, the Batman, not only the Batman fandom, but like the people who generally would go to a comic book store and celebrate Batman Day, they're still providing some form of entertainment and solidarity with everyone. Can't wait.
So that's our news for the week. And I know you guys might be wondering where our panel of the week is. We do not have a panel of the week this week, but it will be returning next week. So we're going to jump right in to the weekly haul because we do have some new number ones that you definitely want to check out this week.
Definitely.
So we're going to give you our aim. As if you are just joining us for this comic book review segment, we don't like to review in the traditional sense because numbers are numbers, but numbers mean a little bit something different to everybody else. So we have come up with a semi-patented, very catchy little system. And our acronym for AIM is A, accessibility. How easy for you is it to grab and read? I is for interest. Who would like this book? Or is there a similar title that you might be reading that would easily translate to you jumping over to this other title? And then M is money, or the monetary investment. What are you getting out of this book? How much does it cost? How much does it cost per page? What's that nice ratio you're getting? Are there any digital bonuses? What is the experience you get for what you are paying for this book? So with that, Paul, you want to take us into our first aim of the week?
I sure do. Chris, bring up the picture. Boom. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is Iron Man #1. Now this is being written by Christopher Cantwell, who some of you may be familiar with from his current Doctor Doom series. He also recently did help write/co-write some of the Iron Man 2020 event that did just end, I believe 2 weeks ago. And then on pencils is Kefu, which I learned is an acronym for his full name, which is Carlos Alberto Fernandez Urbano. So also, but for the remainder of the show, we're going to call him Kefu. And colors are by Frank D. Armada. Now this is a great story. So jumping right into what is the aim of Iron Man #1. I found it as true a #1 for Iron Man that Marvel can do these days. Luckily for them, they've got years and years of lore for, them to sort of build on and just assume people know. So if you have a passing familiarity with Iron Man, then you can just pick this book right up. while this does take place again directly after the 2020 event, you don't need to read any of the Iron Man 2020. I mean, you can. It's fantastic. I loved it. But to understand this particular book, you don't need to. It's again, as far as accessibility, how easy is it to find at your shops? It was all over. There's a ton of variants for this book as well. I picked up just the standard cover. It's a Alex Ross wraparound. It's the one that Chris had showed a little bit earlier. I really love that cover so much, but there's a ton of variants that were done by a ton of incredible artists. Now, who would like this book? If you're an Iron Man fan, you're gonna love this book. I really liked it because it does play with my favorite aspect of Tony Stark, in that, you know, everyone sees Iron Man and they see this facade that he puts on, you know, constantly. But what does Tony Stark look like when the suit is not on and he has to interact with everyday people and he's not you know, he gets to take a day off? It's almost like a punishment to him when he has to just go to board meetings and when he has to do some of these, you know, smaller tasks that that he thinks are beneath Tony Stark and Iron Man. But this really plays on that, and he wants to just strip all that away and just be, you know, for lack of a better word, in touch with the common people. In the first couple pages, he actually moves from LA back to New York. So there's a lot of fun there. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. We are a spoiler-free podcast and show, but there are some characters and villains in this that I literally have only seen once in a comic, and two, for the villain, I had to look up who this person was. Like, never, ever heard of it. Amy, I'll tell you later. I don't want to spoil it
because I'm very curious now.
So, and then as far as the monetary investment, it's $4.99, and it is a bit oversized. So instead of the standard 32 pages for a normal book, it is 36. And again, as far as we know, it's an ongoing. So that seems to be what the monetary investment is going to be for every one of these new Iron Man stories that are coming out. $4.99. Yeah, great book. Go pick it up, especially if you're an Iron Man fan and if you kind of want to just like focus in on Tony Stark and Iron Man, which we haven't gotten to do a lot these days. He's been kind of busy, you know, saving the world with the Avengers and stuff. So,
and trapped in caveman times, if you're following the Avengers series
Jason Aaron's
proper.
right. Yeah. You know, what are you gonna do, right? Sometimes Mondays, am I right?
All right. Well, staying in the realm of Marvel, and for those of you who are listening to the podcast, we will have all of our covers available for viewing on side.show/geek. You can check that out. We do post up a blog once the podcast audio goes live. So if you're looking for any of the visual assets that we reference during the show, we'll do our best to explain them, but they will be available for your viewing pleasure later. Mm-hmm. Staying in the realm of Marvel, I'm hopping over to Giant Size X-Men Storm #1. Now, this is a strange nomenclature because it is a #1. It is a more or less a one shot, but it technically is part of a series, which is the Giant Size X-Men series that has been going on for several months now, between Jonathan Hickman and a rotating group of artists. This is Russell Dodderan's second time doing one of these Giant Size X-Men books, picking up directly from where Giant Size Jean Grey and Emma Frost left off. This is a highly anticipated release because everybody loves Storm, and it seems like not often enough do we get a focus on Storm as a singular member of the X-Men. She's been doing great work in the Marauders title, and she is all over the place on Krakoa. We see her as a core supporting character in a lot of the new X-Men launch, but this is a story about her, and this is the first stepping stone to a larger Storm story that will be coming up soon. So accessibility, how easy is it to grab and read? Well, it is marked as a #1. I did mention it does immediately pick up from Jean Grey and Emma Frost. I would highly recommend reading at least that one. There are Magneto, Nightcrawler, and Phantom X Giant Size X-Men as well, but the only other story that plays any impact is the Phantom X story. And I didn't read the Phantom X story, full disclosure, but I still found the book accessible enough. There were some details I had to extrapolate for myself based on characters who appeared, but you can go in cold and still enjoy this story. And as I mentioned, this is being touted as the beginning of a Storm story. So if you want to get ahead of that, if you think you're the type of person who's going to be reading whatever comes up for Storm, this will be your barrier of entry for a later story. So I still would recommend picking that up. Interest? full disclosure, I picked it up solely because of Russell Donnerman. I mean,
I
I've been enjoying the
called
X-Men
it.
stories, but I didn't read Phantom X, Nightcrawler, or Magneto. I wasn't so interested in the character. So it was a combination of the character and the artist. Russell Donnerman with colorist Matt Wilson, who together they are an unstoppable team. They did the Jason Aaron Thor story for a number of years. Storm is one of Russell's all-time favorite X-Men characters, and you can really tell in the way that he draws her and lovingly just renders this artwork of a goddess. He did do the cover, which is what we are seeing. This is the standard cover, and Storm is just casting lightning bolts. She is cloaked in her black costume with the kind of ethereal white hair and eyes. It is an amazing, amazing turn to get to see them taking on these characters. There's also a number of variant covers available this week from artists like Jen Bartel, and there is an Alex Ross timeless variant that is a beautiful portrait of Storm as well.
Mhm.
If you're loving the X-Men stories lately from Jonathan Hickman, I also recommend picking this up. It does feature a number of characters like Cypher and Warlock, who have been kind of background characters in the Powers of 10 and House of X. I always get them mixed up. Stories, there's a lot of fun, just kind of, and if you're a fan of Monet St. Croix, she is also in it. So there's a lot of like surrounding supporting X-Men characters while Storm takes center stage.
Nice.
Monetary value, the M in AIM is $4.99. That is the standard price for a one-shot or a slightly oversized issue. As Paul mentioned with Iron Man, this book is 35 pages long, so it is a bit more story, a little bit more bang for your buck. And there is a bonus digital edition included. Marvel often includes digital editions. They do expire about a year from when you purchase the original comic, when the publishing date is. So you can get a free digital edition to add to your collection. And check on Marvel's website. They did shutter their online comic stores, but you can still keep an archive of your comics or transfer them over to Comixology. So it's basically like getting two comics for the price of one when you buy this issue. So I recommend it. Seriously, it's great to see Russell Donnerman back on interiors. And after doing Thor for so long, his ability to draw lightning and weather effects, of course, is unparalleled. So he gets to unleash the full strength of his own mutant gift for artwork on the goddess Storm.
Yeah, this one's absolutely beautiful. When I was going, if you guys right after the show look up some of the other variants for this, but specifically look up the Jen Bartel variant. It's so like vibrant and bright. Like I was so split between which cover I wanted for these, but I mean it's Russell Donnerman. I had to pick this one up, but it was great. Alrighty, so the next book that I'm going to be giving my AIM review for is Heavy #1 by Vault Comics. This is a true #1. This is a really, really incredibly interesting book that it sort of takes a concept that a lot of properties, IPs have played with, and what does purgatory really look like, and what is what if there are day jobs within purgatory, and it really turns it on its head. Now, this is being brought to you by writer Max Bemis and artist Eric Donovan, as well as colors, by Chris Peter. I'm just going to jump right into the AIM because I really liked this book. I thought it was a lot of fun. So as far as what is the AIM of Heavy, as far as the accessibility goes, Vault is sort of, dare I say, vaulting the ranks of what as to where they are as far as big publishing goes, and they're getting up there. They've been putting out some really big hits. So I bring that up because you should be able to find this book, Heavy #1, somewhere in your local comic shop. If not, go ahead and place an order. See if you can put yourself down for issue 2 at least, and then have them order #1 for you. But you should be able to find it. And I was mentioning earlier, it is a true #1. It's a creator-owned series, I believe, so you don't need to know really anything before going into this. I go in with an open mind and really, really just sort of start building lore in your own head. Again, we're not spoilers. I'm not going to spoil any of this for you, but there is a lot of stuff to be interpreted in this first issue. And they kind of leave you to do it for yourself, which I really love. As far as the eye goes, the interest, if you, okay, so this book has flashes of characters and plots and things I love from everything. Bill is the name of the main character. He's who we see on the cover. He is like if the Punisher went, to 1 or 2 therapy sessions. Like
Oh no.
he's got it's funny also because in this comic, Max Bemis really plays off a lot of these tropes and saying this is a story about an angry guy who loses everything, but now he has everything to gain back. And so they really kind of play on this and then they turn it on its head. Also, if you're a big fan of RIPD as well, this has got some big flashes of that. And the biggest comparison that I can think of, it's a kind of a niche comic comparison, but it's 10 grand. It's a comic that I really, really love by Image Comics. It's Michael J. Straczynski, probably came out like 8 or 9 years ago. And Bill, who's the main character, is a heavy, and basically all they do is they patrol the multiverse and make sure that if someone's being really, really terrible in one multiverse, that they kill them, and that balances the scales, and the cosmic scales are fine. So as long as the cosmic scales are fine, Bill earns like soul points, and once you hit a certain cap, you can go see your family, and that's really what we see in this solicitation, and it's great. It is a white knuckle on the steering wheel, just sort of really gets going. It's beautiful. Also, Eric Donovan does really, really well in like these open spaces. So there's a lot of open space in this. That's actually what my background is, if you guys can see. And everyone in the podcast, give me just a second, I'll explain. But this is actually what's called the Big Wait, which is their version of purgatory. And there's all sorts of multiversal, demons and all sorts of people just working side by side. And so I think Eric Donovan works best in these open spaces like this. It kind of like feels like you can just walk around in this world. I love it. And then as far as the monetary investment, the M in AIM, it is only $3.99. And it's an ongoing, and it's 32 pages. So pretty standard price, but you really do get a lot within that $3.99 and 32 pages. Go read Heavy Number 1. It's fantastic.
I actually didn't have that one on my radar, but because I am currently embroiled with another Vault Comics series, Finger Guns, which I'll bring up later. But that sounds fascinating. I might actually have to call the store and have them set aside a copy so I can pick it up next week.
Yeah, they're at our local shop that me and Amy go to, there was only a couple. I think I had to pull it off I had to walk the wall there, and I think there's only like 3 or 4. So we'll just end the show now, and Amy, just call and just put all your next orders in. Yeah.
No, I will make sure to put in an order for that. Yeah, Vault Comics is another one of those fantastic independent publishers that's doing a lot of books that you do turn around later and go, oh, I wasn't paying attention to that one. Oh, shoot, it's sold out. I mean, they're also doing the Vampire the Masquerade series. So before we move on to my AIM, Cassidy, we do have some comments and questions in the chats. You want to pass those along?
Yes, Alex Cutler in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group wanted to ask about what is the best place to order comics online. He said that he moved kind of far away from his local comic book store, and I think he's asking about physical copies. He prefers those.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of, in my personal experience, there's a lot of retailers, especially now, right now with a lot of the movement restrictions and how many people could be in a store. A lot of comic book stores are adapting and are happy to ship your books to you. There are a couple of larger retailers, specifically like Midtown Comics in New York, that you can set up a subscription with and have them shipped. But if you want to look around, if there is a local store near you, or not quite near you but still in the vicinity, I would talk to them and see if they're happy to physically ship you your books. I know that I actually ordered a special cover for a book coming up from Image Comics called Dracula MFR, which is a mature rated horror comic, but there's a special cover that only can be bought at 6 different stores across the United States. So I actually called up one of those stores and I'm having a physical copy sent to me, but a lot of stores will bag and board and ship your books to you. It's a matter of getting in contact with them and finding who offers that service. But I find increasingly a lot of stores are offering that service.
Yeah, I completely second everything Amy said. If I had to add anything on, I'd say buy in bulk. So, I mean, don't get, all your books, don't get one and then have another one. Maybe if you have a pool with your local shop or another shop and you'd rather them ship your physical books to you, wait till you've got 10, 12, 13 books in there, because that way you and your shop aren't basically forking over cash every single time you have to ship something. It's easiest for the shop and probably easiest for your wallet if you just sort of ship everything together. I think, Amy, didn't we actually have someone on a previous Holler at the Hall segment say that they moved from one point, from one end of the country to the other, and they still did that? They still
Yes.
bought shops at their previous local comic shop, which was like 3 states away. So that's
Yeah. I mean,
undying loyalty. That's like the loyalty Loki was looking for in Avengers 1. Like that's what he was at. That's what he was talking about.
more than anything, these stores want to get these books into your hands. I mean, they would be more than happy to sell you copies. So
Yes.
yeah, and Paul does bring up a great point. Maybe you get your books shipped twice a month or once a month, but make sure, it's not one book at a time. If it is one book at a time, I'd find a more specialty seller. Again, like
Yes.
Midtown Comics and Things from Another World are very great for one-off orders, but you do have to make sure with some of those stores you get the orders in advance, because it is harder for online retailers to gauge their pre-orders and get books in physically. So
Right.
it's not impossible. There are ways that it can be done. And again, there is a store out there that would love to get your books to you. So I wish you the best of luck.
Good luck.
All right. So to wrap up this AIM segment, I have one more title. It is the background you are seeing behind me, which we will share. It is a smaller version of the cover. This is Stillwater from Image Comics and Skybound, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Ramon K. Perez and colors by Mike Spicer. Now, this is a very interesting title because you see Chip Zdarsky and you expect maybe some humor, but based on the cover, you see the flush red with the kind of chilling black. It's a heart that is forming roots, and then a white skeleton holding a child on top. This already immediately from the get-go gives you some sense of dread, or at least it should. It gave me the heebies and the jeebies, as they say. So A, for accessibility. First of all, I do want to put this one out there for accessibility. We don't bring it up a lot, but this is rated M for mature. Comic books always do have a rating on them. You can often find it near the barcode. Of course, there is general E for everyone, or A, all ages. There's teen plus, mature. This is a very mature title. A lot of swears dropping in the first couple of pages. If that is something that you are sensitive to, you do want to take note of that. However, as Paul mentioned with Heavy, this is a true number 1. Creator-owned books usually set up everything that they need for you to know in the first issue right away. You don't have to read Iron Man 2020 to understand what's going on in Stillwater.
Oh, that's good.
I know that would be a big problem. But that is the beauty of the creator-owned series. It is a self-contained story. You don't have to worry about excess material. The only thing you have to worry about is if they're going to print enough volumes, because you love it so much you want it to go on forever. But this is a pretty anticipated release from Image and Skybound, so your store should have a decent amount of copies. Otherwise, it's on Comixology, which is the digital website. And as I mentioned, the first issue sets up all the central mystery and horror, if you are looking for that. For interest, I'm struck by the small town horror vibe. If you're a fan of things like Village of the Damned, or those films where out of towners come in and they don't usually get a lot of they don't get a lot of visitors in this here town, where you wonder why don't they get any visitors. For those of you reading comics, though, if you read Aftershocks, I believe it was Aftershocks, You Are Obsolete, about the reporter who went to the town full of children who were basically killing anybody over the age of 40. You might also like that. It's a small town horror vibe where outsiders are not welcome. It's a horror mystery by Chip Zdarsky, who is generally known for his humor. So if you're a fan of Howard the Duck or Kaptara, you're probably not going to find that kind of humor here, but he has shown his dramatic chops with books like Daredevil. So Chip is not to be underestimated. He is a Chip triple threat. And the characters actually seem very self-aware about the fact that their circumstances are bizarre and like out of a horror movie. And that actually, it took me out of the story for a minute to have the characters remarking, oh, we're in horror movie territory now. But the story does a great job of giving you its twist. And it's not spoilers to say what the tagline for the book. This is something for you to chew over. Nobody dies in the town of Stillwater. That's not just a promise, it's a threat.
Nice.
So the book does a great job of setting up that mystery, and you immediately want the next issue. So if you are looking for some horror ahead of the fall season, I definitely recommend picking up Stillwater, because as we get deeper and deeper into Halloween and Halloween 2 and all of the months that you consider to be Halloween, you're going to want to have some nice chilling horror stories to read. And I think that they will be pretty deep in the true kind of creep factor of this story by then. For monetary value, it is $3.99, standard price, standard page count. So that is my aim for Stillwater #1.
Nice. It's like we're sort of getting into this era with Chip Zdarsky where it's like, is this a pre-Snickers Zdarsky book or like a post-Snickers? So it almost seems like, Zdarsky's writing Stillwater. It's like, here, have a Snickers. You're not yourself when you're when you don't have one. And then he's like, I'm sorry. Then he goes back to writing sex criminals. So yeah, so that's from now on. That's how we'll be referring to Chip Zdarsky.
All right.
No, we won't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Please don't. Please don't contact us about that, Chip Zdarsky. We love your work. If you want to talk to us about that, we love your work. But sorry about the Snickers joke. So we're getting some more comments on social. Cassidy, you want to pass those to us?
Yes, Ron on Facebook asked, how do you browse for new books? Like the old way was to browse the new release aisle. How do you browse virtually? I think for both of you.
I can go first. I think
you take it first.
I think a lot of it is I still every once in a while I still will buy a previews when I can. So
the phone book of comics.
The phone book of thank you. Yes. The yellow pages of what makes my wallet cry. So I still do that. I still do browse previews here and there, but mainly I use Comics List, which is, I think something as someone who's looking for a digital resource, which we have shared before, and they will actually compile everything that's coming this week, next week, and then 2 weeks in advance. And then it's got like future solicitations. Honestly, sometimes I just take a look at that in passing. I know Amy does. We follow a ton of people in the comic book industry all the time, and they'll say, I'm working on this project and you should check out this project. And so a lot of it is just like word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do recommend Comics List. That is they work with Things from Another Planet as well, pretty closely. Is it Things from Another Planet?
Things from Another World.
Things from Another World. I'm sorry. Yeah, TFAW. Yeah, Things from Another World. They partner pretty closely with them as well. I think you can. What we'll do is we can go back. Maybe in the Later Geek Sideshow Facebook group, or we can add this maybe into our blog somewhere as to what that resource is.
Mm-hmm.
But
otherwise you can Google, like I do, the old-fashioned way. I Google comics coming out this week, and Comics List is usually the first or second second result. I Google that every week. But as Paul is saying, it's a great resource. I actually use it pretty religiously, because once I've picked up my books for the 1 week, I go to the next week's list and I write down in my phone notes document list of books that I'm expecting. I go through every publisher. If there's one that I see and I haven't added to my pull list yet, I will go to the Comic Hub app. Our store is affiliated with Comic Hub, which is a great resource to see what you've already ordered and what you have on pre-order. And then I can't stress enough the importance of, if you are on social media in any degree, follow the publishers, follow your favorite creators, because that is where I get most of the news about what books are coming out when. Of course, creators are always going to be extremely vocal when their new books are coming out. And so it all just kind of depends on the what you make yourself an audience to. At the very least, check the publishers, because they'll update when they have their monthly solicitations and stuff. But it's great to follow the creators to keep track of that.
Totally.
If you're looking for the true, just random experience, that's a little harder these days. I think you could get that with previews, but if you know what you like and what you're looking for, it's easy to tailor your digital browsing experience to yourself by following or bookmarking the right pages and profiles.
Yeah, I mean, and even and another resource is if you have friends who are very much so in the comic book industry. Luckily, my friend who really likes comic books does a show with me, so that's nice. But like me and Amy still constantly, I'll send her like, hey, look, this is coming out. Like, this looks pretty cool. We're like, oh, neat. And it just kind of adds to our radar.
And I think this is a perfect segue to a new segment that we haven't done on the show just yet. We're going to give you our pulling ahead segment when there is a large amount of comic book news about what you can pre-order coming up. And in this case, Marvel and DC have given us all the juicy details on their December events. We're going to give you a list and a look at what you guys can look forward to so you can start pulling ahead and ask your stores to pre-order these books for you.
Nice.
All
Great
right.
segue.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll get us started with, so far on my end, I've got just the DC solicitations. That's what I'm going to go ahead and take care of. And before I get into the big obvious one, which is Endless Winter, really quickly, I wanted to talk about Batman and Catwoman #1, which is Tom King's return to his super long and prolific run on the core Batman title. He's going to be working with artist Clay Mann, who he did Heroes in Crisis with. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think people have been asking for a really long time, and he actually solicited for quite a while. So it's finally coming out in the second week of December. And then, of course, as I was mentioning, Endless Winter, which is the event that is going to take place at around the same time and right after DC Dark Knight's Death Metal. It's going to be 9 chapters in 5 weeks, and it's going to be it's going to span Justice League Dark, Flash, Aquaman, and a bunch of just Endless Winter #1s. It's going to be written by Andy Lanning, Ron Mars, with art by Howard Porter, who is currently doing the Joshua Williamson Flash run. It's fantastic. And the covers by Mikkel Yannon and Daniel Warren Johnson. So 2 heavy hitters in the art in DC's art world right now are going to be doing a majority of these covers. This is the cover for Endless Winter #1. I love it. They're really teasing this as sort of a Wonder Woman centric, Flash centric, and Black Adam centric story, which that third one is the big that's the one that's going to be exciting. And this is the cover actually for Black Adam, Endless Winter, Black Adam #1. So there's so much I think that is going to happen in these 5 short weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it. We don't have much info on it. All I know is what I've just told you. So yeah, so that's going to be the first week of December. Whatever that first Wednesday of December is.
Well, they're the first Tuesday. Because Marvel,
the first Tuesday. I'm sorry.
December,
yeah,
I believe they're December 1st because Marvel's following up on December 2nd.
Right. Good catch, JP. I forgot about that.
I know.
I still forget about it.
Got the thinking brain on.
Yes.
Was that all that you had for Endless Winter?
I mean, there's a lot on Endless Winter. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna span quite a few stories. You can read the solicitations out for them, but they're pretty generic. There are some out there for Flash and Teen Titans. Those I will say, if you don't want any spoilers, don't read those 2 specifically, Flash and Teen Titans, because they did spoil some stuff for myself. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'll still read it. But yeah, Endless Winter is going to be a big fun event. I'm loving right now that like Wonder Woman is at the forefront because, like I've always said, and I've always said it before, I think she's the unofficial and official leader of the Justice League, and I love her so much. But so yeah, Endless Winter is going to be great. Bat and Cat, can't wait. And there's so much other stuff coming out, guys, but we really wanted to just showcase that first.
That is a really good reminder, though, to be careful with the solicitations text, because sometimes they will inadvertently accidentally spoil stuff. Because this is we're in September getting the news for December. So if you're preferring to stay away, don't look for the deeper solicitations. But this is just a hint. And it's always good to let your store know as soon as humanly possible that you're interested in these titles so that they can be pulling ahead for you. So on Marvel's end, in terms of terrifying Uber events that are starting up in December, we do have the King in Black event, which has been teased a lot. This is their follow-up. It doesn't directly correlate, but this is the next event following the 10 of Swords X-Men event. This is going to be an Avengers and Venom centric event. We are showing you the promotional art by Ryan Stegman featuring Venom front and center, but you do see Cyclops, Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, and then in the back we do have the villain Null, and he's been built up over the last couple of years on Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's Venom run as this super malevolent force in the Marvel universe, and up until now he's mostly stayed in the realm of the far back cosmos, but also one-on-one with the symbiotes. He is the god of symbiotes, but he is on the warpath through the galaxy. He is on a death march, and he is coming to Earth to meet Earth's mightiest heroes and watch them fall beneath his legion of symbiote dragons. And if you haven't seen a symbiote dragon, then you're going to want to check out Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's Venom run, because that is not even the weirdest thing that has happened with the symbiotes. And this event has kind of been building up for years, like Jason Aaron's War of the Realms that took a nice slow burn 7 years to come to fruition. the King in Black event has been simmering for the last 2 years, not only in the Venom storyline, but also little hints through Thor: God of Thunder and Silver Surfer Black. So that'll be really cool. And there are a number of titles that have been announced. There are more to come, but King in Black launches December 2nd, as I mentioned. The main event the main event book is 5 issues long. Issues number 1 and 2 will release in December, with the rest you can expect probably January, and then wrapping up in February.
Nice.
And along with the main event, which is King in Black, they have announced tie-in titles. Black Cat number 1 is a new ongoing series for the character from Jed MacKay and C.F. Villa, and that first issue will tie directly in. We know that Black Cat herself does have some affiliation for Peter Parker's symbiote suit, so it'll be interesting to see her interacting. We do have King in Black, Iron Man, and Doctor Doom number 1, which is, it sees Victor Von Doom and Tony Stark, who have been unlikely allies and enemies all throughout the Marvel Comics universe. I mean, even with Doctor Doom taking on the mantle of Iron Man a couple of years ago, they are fighting a venomized Santa Claus. We do have the cover here, which is exactly what you are seeing. It's Stark and Von Doom eyeing each other suspiciously while Santa and his terrifying symbiote reindeer fly over the skies above. I wish I had more of an explanation to offer you, but you're going to have to read that one to find out.
What else do you need?
Well, what else do you need? We've got King in Black, Immortal Hulk number 1, which is Bruce Banner trapped on a planet of symbiotes. We've got Namor number 1 of 5, which is going to be a spin-off title about the young Prince King of Atlantis. I don't know what he is as he's a teenager, but it is a spin-off about the birth of one of the greatest villains in all of Atlantis, and you can bet that probably has something to do with a symbiote. And it will feature a teenage Namor and Atuma. So if you are a fan of Namor, you're going to want to pick that up. And then Spider-Woman number 7 is also going to cross over with King in Black. Marvel has also revealed a series of nullified variant covers for characters who might not have direct event tie-ins, but if you want to see some creepy, not quite venomized, they're not symbiote styled, but mixed with Null, who has a bit of a cooler, kind of creepier design. And there's characters like Thor, Ms. Marvel, the X-Men. If you are in the variant cover collecting game, those will all be out in December. One other title I wanted to mention for our Pulling Ahead segment. The 5th and final issue of Vault Comics' Finger Guns released today, but instead of aiming Finger Guns number 5 for you and making it a hard sell to find the final issue and go back and find the other 5, I wanted to let you know that you can tell your store now that you're interested in the trade paperback, volume 1 of Finger Guns. This has been one of my favorite series this year. It's kind of a runaway sleeper hit from Vault Comics. It is by Justin Richards, Val Halverson, and Rebecca Nalty, and it is a teenage drama following 2 kids named Wes and Sadie who discover they can alter other people's emotions by pointing finger guns at them. But are emotional teenagers the most prepared and equipped to deal with other people's feelings?
Yes.
If they're still dealing with their own, absolutely nothing can go wrong. It's a fantastic and very emotional story wrapped up in a surprisingly cute and what seems like simple on the surface premise. The success of that story, I mean, it has been extremely successful, but the ongoing success is determined by trade sales. So if you are interested in checking that book out, if they do well in trade, there might be a second volume of Finger Guns on the way. It does leave on a heart-wrenching cliffhanger. So I personally would like to see more Finger Guns. So if you are checking out the 5th and final issue today, good on you for reading that series. Fantastic. But if you have not yet had a chance to check out the series, I highly, highly recommend pre-ordering the trade, and that will be coming soon. Doesn't have an exact date, but they are taking pre-orders for that now.
Nice.
Yes. All right. Do we want to do a rapid fire round just to mention off those other couple books that might have not made our aim list today?
I think so. This is going to be we're running out of time, guys. So this is going to be a true rapid fire round.
True rapid fire round.
I hope you've got your listening ears on. No, I mean, those are just ears, right? Okay. Yeah. Put your ears on. So, first, 7 Secrets number 2, Possessed number 1. That's a small Clover Press book. Batman Detective Comics number 1027. This is a huge release that I just didn't have the time to cover. It's Batman's 1000th appearance technically within Detective Comics. Stillwater number 1 I picked up. X-Men, Giant X-Men Storm, of course. Hellions number 4 I'm also reading. X-Men number 12. Finger Guns number 5. I am reading that. It's great. And then also Devil's Highway number 3 by Benjamin Percy over at AWA. And that's a fantastic book too. So
very nice.
That was as rapid fire as I could shoot them off.
All right, let me see if I can do that too. We do have a couple of overlaps. I've also picked up Seven Secrets #2 from Boom Studios, as well as X-Men #12, Finger Guns #5, like I mentioned, Once and Future #11, Excalibur #12, and then Thor #7, which does feature a fun Easter egg. There is a phone number you can call to go to Tony Stark's voicemail. So if you are
Yes.
checking out Thor #7, or you happen to see that image floating around, it is on Donnie Cates' Twitter. Check it out. It's worth a call. It does take you to advertising for the Thor series, but if you want to smile today, you can call Tony Stark's out of commission voicemail that he doesn't use anymore because of a certain big blonde jerk. So that is our rapid fire round. It was a good week for comics. Lots of number ones mixed in with a lot of continuing series.
Yes.
So it is time for our Holler at the Hall segment. We did ask you guys a fantastic question that elicited not only verbal or written responses, but photographic responses. We always love to see those. So for those of you listening along on our podcast, again, you can check out, you can go to side.show/geek or sideshow.com/geek to check out our blog. We asked you this week, do you display your comic books with your collectibles? If so, let's see them. So...
And boy, did you guys show off.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I personally don't display any of my comics with collectibles because I have to keep them in the long boxes. I'm very specific about the organization, but gosh darn it, you guys had some really, really clever setups.
They really do. Amy, do you want to take the first one here? Let's see. Can we pull the first one up, Chris?
Yeah, Richard Anderson. So Richard Anderson submitted to us in our Let Your Geek Side Show Facebook group this awesome shot of the G.I. Joe Baroness Bishojo statue from Kotobukiya, paired alongside the Mike Mayhew white variant for G.I. Joe 273 by IDW. Simple but elegant. I mean, I really like the contrast of the white costume on the cover versus the black of the statue. So that was really fun to see. So thank you, Richard Anderson, for submitting that piece of your comic book collection to us.
Thank you, Richard. The next one we have is by 14 Wellington. And we have here Sideshow's very own Wolverine 6-scale figure. This is the brown costume with a Hot Toys Avengers Age of Ultron Black Widow and Hot Toys Captain America Star Spangled Man alongside Uncanny X-Men number 268, and which we think is signed by Jim Lee.
It looks like it.
Right?
That looks like a Jim Lee scribble.
It does, and we can't tell definitively, but it does look like it. That's 14, a beautiful...
If you are listening along, please do clarify for us. It looks like that is a signed comic, which whether or not it is, your display looks fantastic. For those of you who may or may not remember, this is an iconic cover featuring Cap, Widow in her gray suit, and then brown costume, Wolverine all posed looking out over the city. We did release a kind of an homage fine art print with Alex Garner through Sideshow's art print program as well. It's just it is an image that has permeated pop culture.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let me see. Yeah, 14. Thank you so much for sending that one, and that one's beautiful.
All right, up next from Sean Martin, we have an absolute huge wall of DC Collectibles Harley Quinn statues alongside the covers that inspired them. And I think this is fantastic because DC Collectibles always does a fabulous job of specifically referencing the artist that they are based off of. A lot of their collectibles are very specific moments on covers or artist styles. So to pair them with the covers that they were based on is a natural pairing. 14 Wellington has clarified for us it is signed by Jim Lee. I am sufficiently jealous now. That is a really cool display. Congratulations on that.
Nice.
Back to Sean Martin. He also does have some incredible CGC graded comics hung on the wall. Lots of DC Rebirth by the look of it. We've got some Connor and Palmiotti New 52 as well. And there are Funkoverse pieces, and it is a shrine to Harley and the Joker. Predominantly Harley, but Puddin always makes his appearance. That is a really cool collection, and I really do love pairing the statue directly in front of the cover because it looks like Harley is stepping off of the book, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah, it sure does. That's rad.
I'm sure that's exactly why Sean Martin did it.
Yes, Sean, if you're watching, let us know. I mean, I would love to. I'm sure there's so much more in this collection than just that wall. Like, he's like, this is just my heart. This is just the Harley corner. Like, I'm sure there's so much else that he's got there. We would love to see it. So lastly, we've got a really, really cool one by James Bowen. This is the Marvel Gallery PVC Cloak and Dagger statue. Now, this is along Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 64, which was the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger, as well as Marvel Age number 6. I really love this one. I think this was the one that I immediately gravitated towards when we looked at all of the responses. I really love the dichotomy between Cloak and Dagger and that statue and like how different they look. And then of
Mhm.
course next to those incredible comics. I mean, it's sort of hard not to just stare at this picture all day, but you know what? We have a show to do. We can't just stare at these pictures all day.
I really also do like that the comic book covers are forming like a kind of a difold barrier.
Yeah.
It just really makes it look like a full diorama or kind of environment for the characters, and they as if again they are coming off of the covers themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you guys all so much for sending all those in. I mean, we love to see it. We love to see everyone's collection, but specifically as two huge comic book nerds, we love seeing, you know, how you pair those two hobbies together.
Yeah, and it's given me some ideas, even though it is hard for me to take the books out of the boxes because I've got a very organized file system. But so many creative options. Thank you guys for responding. If you guys want to see even more photographs that were submitted to us, you can do so in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. Just look for our
Yes.
latest holler or our most recent holler at the hall question, and you can browse all of the fantastic pictures that people submitted. We wish we could show them all. We could probably fill an entire episode with those photographs.
We really
But
could.
we do have another question for you guys that we want to hear your responses for next
Mhm.
week. With the December comic book solicitations and all this pulling ahead news that we've mentioned from Marvel, DC, and more, what new and upcoming titles and events are you most excited for? Let's start getting ahead and thinking about what's coming out in the winter and what books you're looking forward to. So we want to hear about those. You can respond to us on our social media. We are at the Comics Hall on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Mhm.
You can find us in the Let Your Geek Sideshow group. We will always post up a question or the question, so you can respond in the comments there. And if you're so bold, you may email us at thecomicshall@sideshow.com. We also
Yes.
accept email responses. So that's another way you can get engaged with us. We will have our panel of the week segment returning, so you guys can vote on that too. We had to take a break this week, but that is a heated competition. It is only getting spicier as I have one win under my belt versus Paul's two.
I just canceled the whole segment once I lost. It's like, you know, when someone loses, they take their ball home and just, you know, walk home. Like no one can play. That was
equally,
me.
I canceled the segment after I won so that I could be the most recent and reigning champion. So we're at an impasse.
Welcome to the Comics Hall, where me and Amy are both sore winners and sore losers. So
the duality of man.
yes.
So that does it for all of the comic book news we had this week. Lots of new books from Marvel, but lots of news from DC Comics. Lots of stuff going on. I hope everybody enjoys their Batman Day this Saturday. We should ask about that. We look forward to hearing about that as well. So we'll catch up with you guys next week on how you celebrated the festivities.
Yes.
Again, you can reach out to us on our social media at the Comics Hall. And then you can tune in live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Sideshow's official YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram channels where we do go live. And then you can listen to us beginning on Thursdays, the following day, for our podcast. And you can catch up on that and check out our blog that will launch on Thursdays as well, with all of the visual assets that you saw mentioned or described to you in this show. Or actually, if you were listening to the podcast, you didn't see them. So you will see them in the blog.
There you go. Got it.
And we will be back for our next show on September 23rd for yet another new comic book day. I think that's all the information. That's all of our links and social and all that good stuff.
I think we're good.
Excellent. Then let's take it on home. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Amy.
And I'm Paul.
And this has been the Comics Hall.